government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, last night I sat there in the comfort of my home, the safety of my home, and could not go to sleep until the wee hours watching Sha'Carri Jackson and Joe Biggs in Ferguson, Missouri, with gunshots going off all around them as criminals. Quite frankly, I mean, it is terrorism. Tried to shoot the police. And, you know, dude told them you can pull out of there if you want, but they basically wanted to stay in the middle of the fray. But I think both Sha'Carri and Joe Biggs will get the biggest bonuses anybody's ever gotten around here for going and doing that. It's all over the news. See, but we see ourselves subconsciously as alternative media still. I don't, but my crew does. And so whenever cops are hiding, protesters are running, people are shooting at the police, bullets are bouncing off their armored vehicles, Joe Biggs is saying, why is everybody running? Oh, they're shooting. It's national news that MSNBC anchor chased off the air by gunfire. It's national news. Fires burning in Ferguson and gunshots. And there are Joe Biggs and Sha'Carri in the middle of the gunfire, not running, and no one in my operation sees that as even a big deal. Think about that. National news. And again, this is just how the media works, and this is a microcosm of everybody else in this country. We see government as invincible, government as God. It doesn't matter if we have millions of listeners, 4 or 5 million a day. It doesn't matter if 1 million plus people visit Infowars.com a day. We still think of ourselves as small. We still think of MSNBC with 200,000 viewers at one time as bigger than us. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I almost picked the phone up last night to say, hey, go with this headline, go with that headline. This is epic. You know, you're in the middle of gunfire. This is definitely racially based. People are burning down Mexican food restaurants and looting them. You have the footage. How incredibly brave Sha'Carri and Joe Biggs are. And I thought, no. They'll understand how epic this is, and then it'll be told. And then it really wasn't. And again, I'm going to get into the whole Ferguson situation, but our response to it is a microcosm. I went to Infowars.com this morning at 6 a.m. when I got up, and we were reporting on the CNN people running and the MSNBC running, not on what we saw and how we stayed and how we have 6 hours videos of all of it happening right there. You know, live, historic, uncensored, what really went on, true journalism. Instead, look what CNN did. They ran. Because that's what the heroes do, is they run while our reporters stand there in the middle of the gunfire. Now I'm done ranting about that. I'm just talking about how we need to get our minds around this as a people. The Federal Reserve isn't federal. It isn't the big stone buildings that are invincible that look like some Olympian god base. It's a bunch of foreign criminal bankers that hoodwinked and swindled their way into control of the nation. See? Understand that? But saying, oh, it's a big stone building. It's the establishment. Oh, it's got the power. These criminals count on this allure of grandeur and invincibility. Now, listen, when I come back, I'm going to refocus and get into what actually happened last night. This is a Rosetta Stone issue. You can see into everything on. Clearly, they announced the verdict at night as a psyop, try to make this as bad as possible. I kept saying that for weeks. If they announced it right after nightfall, if they announced it at 1 in the morning, it would have been a video, everybody would have gone to bed. Maximum effect, 2 hours after dark. They did it with perfect precision. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this live worldwide Tuesday edition of the Alex Jones Show. I am your host, Alex Jones, and we're going to be here for the next 3 hours covering the aftermath of the Ferguson situation that may continue and will probably continue to erupt tonight right through Thanksgiving. Now, when you've got ISIS, a.k.a. Al-Qaeda, killing around 300,000 people the last 4 years in Syria, and you've got 15 million children starving to death a year, another 20 million adults, you got 14 million people dying of malaria every year. I mean, I get it. There are a lot bigger real issues in the world. But as far as a media event and a psyop, and to study social engineering, and to study anthropology and sociology, the things the globalists scientifically study on record, you can see how Ferguson is a beta test for things much larger. I said 6 years ago that Obama was going to stir up race war in America. I'm on record saying it, let's not exaggerate, probably 3,000 or 4,000 times. I said a couple times a week. You do that, that's at least 300, 400, 500, maybe 1,000 times. I don't know. Conservatively, 500 times. I don't know. You've probably heard me say it so much you're sick of hearing it. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I do study anthropology, social engineering, sociology. And you can clearly see where the system is trying to exacerbate racial, religious, ethnic, sexual differences and play us off against each other while doing it in the name of multiculturalism. It's divide and conquer. It's how the British could have 1,000 troops and control the country of India back when they first took it over hundreds of years ago, was by playing different groups off against each other. They would send in advanced squads to live there for decades and learn every little division, every little religious or ethnic beef between the Hatfields and the McCoys in that area, and then come in and exacerbate it. Now, caught in the middle are the citizens of Missouri, the citizens of Ferguson, the citizens of America, the police, the shopkeepers. And so you've got bad players here on both sides, but it's not the rank-and-file demonstrators. It's not the rank-and-file police officers. The rank-and-file police officers are just in there trying to do their job. They got shot at last night, a whole bunch. And Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson, who I don't know whether I should reprimand them or give them the biggest bonus I've ever given a reporter. It's going to be the big bonus end, but not next time. I told them if the shooting starts, you're to pull all the way to the back and get in cover. Well, they didn't do that. Joe Biggs really didn't and just stood right up there. And we've got video and audio of it going up on Infowars.com. There's lower res live streams of it up on Infowars.com as well. But it just goes to the fact that they were so into getting the story, as I guess media Jaegers or hunters, that they didn't hide when the firefighters ran, the police ran, the protesters ran as criminals. That's not strong enough a word. I mean, military attackers. It is terrorism. We're shooting at the police. Now, here's the problem. Our government's so corrupt, it could have been a federal agency doing that. Our government shipped guns to Mexico to blame the Second Amendment and got caught in Fast and Furious. They staged a bunch of other provocateur events. They allow radical Islamicists in and allow them to set up training camps in the U.S. So I don't know if it was provocateur. Probably not. There's so much hatred and anger stirred up by MSNBC and CNN and the White House and the Justice Department that there were probably real thugs out there shooting at the police. We'll get Jakari Jackson and Joe Biggs' take on this. But I will tell them tonight, I don't want to tempt fate. They want to stay and keep reporting. That's great. They are not to be at the front. Of course, sometimes you're safer at the front than in the back. But I don't want my reporters getting shot. And the police did the right thing, hiding behind their vehicles. But see, this will turn into the whole argument. See, we need armored vehicles. We got shot at right as the MRAPs get deployed. Remember a year ago, they did martial law training, actually 2 years ago in areas of St. Louis, and said, oh, it's for what's coming. So there is a PSYOP going on, and I said this last week over and over again on record. I said, if they announce this, in fact, Jakari was on with me last Wednesday, and I said, I think if it's provocateur, they'll announce it about 2 hours after dark. And Jakari said, I agree with you. If it is a provocateur, you announce it in the early morning, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It dribbles out. People don't organize. The type of thugs that get on social networks to do this and use the demonstrations as cover to loot and rob, they're asleep till noon. You announce it in the morning. I say 4 or 5 a.m. You announce it 2 hours after dark when everybody just started getting into the beer, getting into the liquor. You are guaranteeing, and the governor and everybody coming out for hours and hyping it from like 4 on, like, okay, just be calm, it's coming, just be calm. They're social engineers, folks. They're being given federal orders on all this. They know what they're doing. So the citizens, the police, and everybody else were put in the middle of this for federal psyops, federalization of police, armored vehicles, continued militarization. That's bottom line. Just like in 1991, 92, when they stood down in Los Angeles and let the rioting get going, Daryl Gates, formerly CIA on record, that was all a psyop to further militarize police and say, see, we need more funds. Does the average cop know this is happening? No. Just like the Seattle riots were provocateur, that came out in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer and Seattle Times. Esquire didn't believe me when they did a profile last year. Look it up. They did a profile last year, big cover profile. And he said Delta Force was not at the Seattle riots running it. And he went and looked it up, and then saw interviews with the police chief, and where they all admitted they ran it. Guess who Joe Biggs, who worked aside special forces units in Afghanistan and Iraq, guess who he saw there and got photos and videos of, and we can show that? Delta Force. Clearly, Delta Force and then support units. Guys that have been medically retired who then support them. He saw Spec Ops operators, Delta Force, who he worked alongside in Iraq and Afghanistan, especially Afghanistan. He would, like, bring people to him and stuff. That's who he saw there. So I'm telling you, folks, Delta Force works directly for the president and was at Waco and were the ones that torched the building and shot the people. We had the flare footage. Later came out in Congress. Yeah, that stuff all came out. Just like CIA drug dealing came out in Congress, but nobody ever talks about that. And they were at the WTO again. The fact that you bring Delta Force into this, when they operate domestically, it's dirty. We had Delta Force, myself and Mike Hansen in San Antonio, at gunpoint, take away our footage of them when we were down there showing their drills. To be clear, they had a MP take it away from us at gunpoint while they sat there videotaping us. So you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that's real reporting that Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson have gotten. So you've got horrible thug life, thug culture garbage that's promoted to the media and hip-hop and the rest of it. We have a special Rick Ross interview coming up that we're going to premiere here today where he exposes the pipeline from hip-hop to prison. We're trying to stop this. That's wrong. That's terrible. That's horrible. Shooting at the police is just terrible. But at the same time, it's terrible they announced it at night, and who can deny that? We're going to skip this network break because the guys have not had any sleep yet. I want to get their report, let them get their stuff filed, and get some rest before tonight. And we'll have live streaming on Infowars Nightly News tonight, 7 o'clock Central on, with what undoubtedly will be more rioting. And they're worried that it can break out in other areas. Most of Ferguson, most of the businesses were burned down. All sorts of racial stuff. Burn it down. If you're white, we're coming for you. Horrible as the globalists play us off against each other. Let's go to former Staff Sergeant veteran Joe Biggs, and that's important because he can militarily report on what he saw there and also seeing the special ops operators that he believes were probably with Delta Force, because that's who they use domestically. They had North Carolina plates, by the way, from Bragg, and that's where they're located. Joe Biggs, tell us overall what you saw, what you witnessed. I'm not trying to puff you up here. It's just you guys are so humble. If you'd have put out the report that you sat there in the gunfire when everybody else ran, and we have footage, that's national news. It's national news that CNN and MSNBC people ran. And they were way behind you guys cowering. So all I'm saying is great job. Really, I mean, people stand there when a hurricane comes in and it's national news. Guys blowing around. You're there right in the middle of it as eyewitnesses. That's newsworthy. So great job, Joe Biggs. Give us your feel. You just heard me from, 500, 600 miles away give you my take sitting here in Austin. What is your take on what you saw and what I said?
I mean, there's not a lot of words that can explain the site in person of what happened here. And also, just to give you guys a background of where we are right now, I'm on West Florissant Avenue in Ferguson, and right behind me, this is the McDonald's. Over to my left, the windows were busted out everywhere in this area, but the building was not burned down. But this is a huge complex behind me. You can see all the way through this building to the other side. This is a very wide building. It was burnt to the ground. The transformers in the area that feed power to the buildings exploded last night. We got some really good footage, and I took a picture just right at the right time. I mean, last night was complete and total chaos. I probably counted somewhere over 1,000 rounds being fired. On the other side of the police, I should say. It was one of the most heartbreaking things I saw last night were the firefighters out here at the beginning of the night trying to put these fires out and then being told they had to be pulled back because the fire truck was taking fire. They were shooting at the fire truck, and you could see the firefighters being pulled back.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Obama has whitewashed this.
Because they couldn't do their job and they wanted to save a business and they weren't allowed to because there was these people out there firing at them and they were just trying to save another business in the community.
Well, Joe, that's a great example of whitewash. Obama says don't focus on the negative. This is happening. And people say, well, ignore Obama. Well, they said, don't cover Ebola, so the media stopped covering it, even though we know they're covering up cases clearly here in the U.S. Only Drudge is picking up our stories. where we show that there's a cover-up going on. So the sky's the limit. But, yeah, there's the headline right there. Fire truck shot. Terrorist attempt to kill firefighters. I mean, here's the thing. I'm against police shooting reporters with rubber bullets for no reason, but I'm also against them standing down and letting people shoot at firefighters. I mean, let me tell you something. I'm glad I didn't go up there because people start shooting at me, I'm going to get really upset. I mean, who are these people? Do we have any idea who's shooting at the firefighters?
At one point last night, Alex, it was a crazy sight, and I took an epic photo. I think it's going to be used for years on end. It was right in front of the Season's Greetings sign on South Florissant, where the police department is. There were almost 1,000 police officers lined up in the street there. You know, after they had burnt that police vehicle, Jakari Jackson and I were able to scale a building and get on the roof and get some really neat footage overhead of that car. And then we decided to pull out and come down here on West Florissant. And when we got out here, all there was were fire trucks out here trying to put out these flames, and they had no protection at the time. There was no one out
That's a major
to keep
system.
them.
You're saying the police did not protect the firefighters?
No, not for a long time. I mean, by the time the cops got here, they had already made the fire trucks pull back, and the buildings were essentially just left to burn to the ground. And as you can see, this is not the only building on this road that was burnt to the ground. There were multiple other buildings. The Sam's Meat Market was on fire. There was a rental storage, you rent per storage unit, burnt to the ground. And other places, I heard a church just right up the street on Canfield. Someone was shot through the window of their car, and they found the dead body sitting in the car in the same complex where Michael Brown was shot. So last night was complete and total chaos. My mind was blown by the amount of violence and how bad things went so quickly. I mean, it broke my heart to see these people just sitting here and, where are they going to go now? You can't even drive on the street now, Alex. You can't even go out here because it's completely ruined and devastated. Almost everyone out here lost their business. The amount that the people save up to put into this community, to help out, to supply people with hardware, with the burgers, with everything out here, laundry places, all gone. Where are they going to go now? It just broke my heart to see this. Last night was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I mean, far surpassed anything I've ever seen in combat.
Elaborate on that.
Just the lack of the humanity. I mean, it was just out of control. There was no thought about life. No one cared. People were popping off shots for no reason. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but they stopped the airspace last night. They shut it down. People who were flying in, by the time I got home last night, I turned on the local Fox. They were at the St. Louis airport. There was a lady getting ready to pick up her son who was flying in from Denver. They were 5 minutes out and told that they had to turn around and go back to Denver. They stopped flights coming in last night because people were shooting up in the air and they thought that it could hit a plane. It was out of control.
Well,
no
that's
one
right.
cared about anything.
KMOV reports St. Louis-bound flights rerouted amid protests. And you guys got some incredible footage of the burning and the looting that was going on. Joe, let me ask you this, because I want to get this straight. You're saying, as an expert on this, because you've been on at least 3 tours of heavy combat, are you saying you heard at least 1,000 shots in the direction of the police and firefighters?
Well, I don't know what direction they were in at every time. At one point, I did hear a snap, like one went right by me, and that's when I got behind the building for a minute. But other than that, I think a lot of them, they were directed at some of the fire trucks when I first got here on West Florissant. And then, the police officers reported last night, too, in the press conference around 2 a.m., that a lot of them, a few police officers were injured. One was shot pretty bad in the arm and was taken to the hospital. But a lot of it, I think, was just up in the air. And apparently at one person who was now dead sitting in a car. So, like I said, last night was out of control. And I was listening to the broadcast before I came on, and you were talking about how a lot of these mainstream media corporations were essentially just running for their lives. And it happened. I mean, we were sitting out there. Jakari Jackson and I were high-fiving each other because these guys were fleeing and running back. They're in a staging area way back here with the National Guard around them and cops patrolling around them. And they're talking about what's going on out here like they have any
The footage you got, you and Jakari. We were just showing some of the footage you guys got. It looks like something out of a science fiction movie.
Oh, I mean, like I said earlier when I opened the show, there's no words that can explain to actually be here and see it. That video, the video will never captivate what happened here. The smell, the aroma, everything burning.
So why was it wilder than some of those battles you were in that Esquire and Rolling Stone wrote about, where there were explosions all around you for hours and fighter jets bombing, targets and some of the biggest battles in Afghanistan that you were in?
Well, because I've got 30 men that I trust with my life. You know, last night it was me and Jakari, and then everyone else, you don't know who they are.
So
You know,
it was the sheer anarchy. It was the chaos that made it so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was like me and him against the world almost. I mean, it was two of us, and there were thousands of people out here, and gunfire going off everywhere. I mean, at one point, I felt like it was just the craziest thing I'd ever witnessed. It was just mind blowing. I mean, when you guys see the report that's coming up right now, I think it's up now, and they should be getting it. You guys have to play this. I mean, it is amazing footage of what happened.
What should the headline be? Exclusive, frontline Ferguson riot footage, or I mean, what headline should we give this video?
Infowars. I'm trying to think of a good way to. You need really good words for this because the footage is just so epic.
Epic Ferguson race war footage?
Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. And again, folks, we just have total transparency. I mean, look at Joe driving while there's burning buildings beside him. This is crazy. I'm going to make the call right now, Joe. I don't want you guys back out there tonight. I don't want to have you guys shot in the head like the person they killed.
Alex, you know that it's just going to be hard for me to do something like that. I'm the kind of guy that I don't run from it. I have to run towards it. You know,
no, I understand. I know it's exciting, but I don't need to get one of you guys shot, for heaven's sake.
Oh, no, we're good. I mean, we work together great out here. I mean, there was no issues last night. We stayed within maybe 2 arms length apart at the most. You know, he was down filming really good stuff, and I was talking to the nightly news crew back at the studio. I mean, we maintained a good distance, and at any time, if things got too
out of control, you had bullets flying by your head, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we got footage of you hiding behind the armored vehicle. I mean, the police are hiding behind the armored vehicle, and then you guys are out there with the bullets flying by. That is just crazy. You use the word, though, that 1,000 shots you would estimate is what you heard?
I mean, at one point in a 5-minute span, I counted about 100 in my head. You know, and we were out here for 5 hours, 6 hours. So, you know, do the math. I mean, at one point, I think for about an hour and a half, every few seconds you heard, pop, 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 pop. Pop, 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 pop. And then one time was like, pop, pop, pop. You know, it was nonstop. You know it's bad when the cops are pulling up a blockade of vehicles and then hiding behind it, and then they're not even worried about people walking up behind them at that point. They were just hiding. You know, but I do have to say this: last night the police did, from what I saw, a pretty great job. They did not act the way they did back in August. They did not attack journalists. You know, we had one issue with them not letting us come back to our vehicle, but that didn't last long. I told them I would get over here to the vehicle, and I did, because that's what I do. But, you know, other than that, they weren't attacking us. They weren't shooting at us. They weren't harassing us in any way. I had people listening to the police scanners, and they were being told over the police scanners to leave the media alone, to let them have free reign and coverage over whatever they wanted. So the cops didn't bother us at all. So I have to give them props on that. You know, I didn't see any excessive force last night like we saw in August, you know, mainly after listening to the 2 o'clock in the morning press brief by the chief. He said that, you know, we were just going to sit back and treat this like a sporting event or a festival. He said we were just going to sit back and, you know, not use excessive force, because, you know, they took so much heat from their actions in August that they felt like last night they had to sit back to prove a point that if they're not out there running around and actually being proactive, that the city's going to burn to the ground.
But I was about to say, that's the PSYOP. Use excessive force up front.
Tonight's going to be 10 times worse, I guarantee it. The amount of National Guard that's going to be in the area, the helicopters in the air, the police, the agents, everything. Tonight will be crazy.
All right, incredible job. We have the best reporters with the most courage standing there as police fire tear gas and rubber bullets over them at people shooting at them with live ammo from firearms, bouncing off armored vehicles. This is sensationally out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, we just lost our Skype feed to Ferguson. We're going to try to get Jakari Jackson and Joe Biggs back on with us. If you were up last night watching the live feed for 6 hours, then you know why I'm so upset. This was crazy. And then you just heard Biggs talking about hearing the police talk, even on the news. The police chief is saying, well, fine, you want restraint? We'll show you restraint. Then they have the media hype all this up, let every thug and gangbanger in the state area come there to use the demonstrations as cover to loot. And then they start shooting at police and citizens and kill somebody in their car and burn down a whole bunch of buildings, giving protesting a bad name, the First Amendment a bad name. The police treated the press nice because they were ordered to stand down this time because they wanted everybody to see the looting. Now, does that say the police themselves are bad? No. It's a federally run psyop. And then Obama comes in and says, let's have calm, and he plays the part of the unifier, the daddy figure, while all of his surrogates try to stir stuff up, just like they got caught in Florida with the Trayvon Martin situation, running the demonstration meetings, trying to get things going violent, because that's all they've got with their constituents is making it all racially based. That's what they're going for. Now, the video has now gone up on YouTube that we've been playing in the background. If you're a radio listener, we simulcast television at Infowars.com/show. Starting at about 6 o'clock Central tonight when it gets dark, we'll have the nightly news on with our reporters on the ground with our roundtable in there breaking everything down. I will probably come in later in the evening and give the crew some relief when they've been broadcasting for 3 or 4 hours, and we will continue to cover this. But this isn't just about race riots. It isn't just about race war, as one state senator called it. It's about cultural manipulation, and it's about understanding how that manipulation works, but it's also about being able to watch the news and to see the manipulation there and to learn how that works. This is about decompartmentalizing the police, the general public, everybody, so that we understand the larger game plan. Delta Force was at Waco. I forgot to ask Joe Biggs about that. Delta Force was in Seattle for the WTO. That set the precedent for the armored vehicles, the federalization, the black uniforms in '99. They use these as rollout events, and you could see the media hyping it. That's the reason we covered it. We don't usually cover what the media is hyping. But if they're hyping it for an event, we've got to get involved covering it so that we can try to affect the overall psyop for a better outcome of enlightening people, not further caging them mentally. But we're going to air the audio and the video of this. The problem is there's so much cussing on the video by the rioters. There's a reason, folks, that I don't go to these type of events. If cops shoot me with rubber bullets for no reason and point loaded M16s at me with no reason, I'm going to get upset. So I just don't put myself in that position. Everybody knows I've done it a lot. I've been arrested 5, 6 times for demonstrating peacefully, or not even demonstrating, just being a reporter. I'm glad that Joe Biggs and Jakari can put up with all this. Joe got shot, you name it. Now, last night, oh, come right on in, reporters. Yes, we know your media. That's fine. Now go show the bad looters. So there is no good or bad guys in this, except, I guess, the firefighters and the media trying to cover it. Because I'm telling you, if I was a shopkeeper, I wouldn't board it up. I would just sit there and wait with my guns. Because I am sick of just criminal mobs of thugs going around and attacking, trying to block people on the road who are in their cars, clearly targeting people racially. It would disgust me to see a mob of white people acting like this versus, black folks. And again, that's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen, is division. But clearly, you got a bunch of criminals using this as their cover to act however they want. You've got the system using the criminal element as a pretext to take over society. That's the bottom line. And the fact that they announced the verdict at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night and, waited a few hours, waited till it got dark and sat on it to the exact moment when it would have the worst effect possible is incredible. But again, fires burning Ferguson, gunshots heard in the streets. We'll be covering it all tonight and tomorrow, the aftermath. MSNBC anchor chased off air by gunfire. Ferguson grand jury decision. CNN and Fox News reporters attacked on air. Networks go live to Obama remarks over no indictment. I mean, what is the president doing responding to a police officer-involved shooting? By the way, they had black witnesses that came in. I have the grand jury transcripts here. Everybody already knows about this, saying that Brown charged him and had already gone at him once, and that basically the cop told the truth. Is it good that this young black man is dead? No, it's not good. Is it good that he was strong-arming a business right before? I mean, this is the culture now in America, is to promote being thugs. And it's growing across the board. And that's what got Mr. Brown killed, in my view. But what about 52% of black people never being born? You're not going to hear a word out of the media on that. You're not going to have riots about that. I mean, I would see riots as it comes out that cancer viruses have been put in vaccines and sterilants here in the U.S. You know, you get sterilized or something, can't have kids, that's a reason to riot. But you don't go riot with cops or burn down your own neighborhood. You go after the pharmaceutical company. And I'm not saying do that. But then you could argue, well, you know, they're going after somebody that did something to them, and there was no justice. But if we put out enough news about what's in the vaccines and about abortion, culturally there'll be a backlash where politically they'll get prosecuted. But again, the firefighters did their job. They went in and they got shot at by people trying to burn down the community. And imagine the people that would shoot at firefighters trying to keep the community from not being burned down and turning that area into an urban wasteland. Jakari Jackson from Ferguson, the epicenter. The HD footage that will roll in the background as you talk is just so epic. The Merry Christmas over the Ferguson Main Street with the armored vehicles and the smoke and the flashbangs being fired and the tear gas being fired as bullets are fired back the other direction, pinging off the metal structures. I mean, you have definitely been in the middle of combat now, Jakari. And again, you guys will not tonight go stand in the middle of it. I want you guys behind something metal taking a cue from the police. I mean, I know you want to get the most epic footage, but and we have the epic footage. It's on Infowars.com. Independent media stands in face of Ferguson gunfire while mainstream media flees. That's got the HD video right there. Inside the Battle of Ferguson, Jakari Jackson, what do you have to say?
Jakari Jackson reporting from Ferguson, Missouri. That's right, Alex. It was wild. Helicopters, burning buildings, gunshots, tear gas. Saw a car crash a couple days ago. This has been, at least for me, I'm sure for Joe as well, one of the most epic things I've ever witnessed, especially to see that this happened in the United States of America. And as Joe said earlier, by and large, the police were on their best behavior. We had no issues with them last night. We did have some issues, or at least we saw some other journalists who had issues with a few of the protesters. I don't want to call them protesters, a few of the people out in the crowd. We actually encountered a guy after we left the police station. We were walking to our vehicle, about to drive down here to our current location where the building burned down. The video that you were talking about where Joe is driving the car and the building's burning, that's the building back there. So we encountered a journalist. He said, hey, can I get in the car with you guys? Some guys just tried to jump me and take my camera. We said, yeah, so get in the car with us. So we drive down here, and we're out walking around. We see the firefighters. We see the burning buildings. And then some guys approach Joe. I'm not sure if this got on camera. I didn't get it on my camera. But some guys walk up to Joe, and they're about to mess with him. They see he has an Infowars microphone on his chest. He has it strapped to his vest. He says, oh, Infowars, you guys are cool. I'm not going to mess with you. Then he goes and messes with some other people. It was bizarre, the amount of stuff that was going on out here.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. If somebody punches you or Joe, I mean, you're going to fight back. They're going to get their butt kicked. It's not like you're some MSNBC reporter that's going to fall down on the ground in a fetal position.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, we didn't have those issues. You know, after everybody realized we weren't cops, you know, that was the rumor for a couple of days until people started to go back and watch our videos. Like, okay, these guys are cool. After they realized that, they haven't messed with us since. But, you know, we were out here. They were shooting the gunfire right over in this direction, just pop, 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 pop. I mean, guys going through entire magazines. And, you know, at the time, I couldn't believe they were shooting that many shots. I was like, they have to be shooting them in the air because nobody would shoot that many shots at somebody, although we've seen that happen in previous things. So they were shooting over here. We were next to the firefighters. And if you guys watch the video, it's when the video goes to night vision. And you can hear the call come over the radio. He's like, get out of there. It's, you know, some guy talking to the firefighters. He's like, get out there. It's too dangerous. And the guys, you know, nothing against the firefighters. They're just following their orders. They got up and they left. And actually, they got up and left in such a hurry, they left their fire hoses behind. But myself and Joe Biggs, we remained on the scene and continued to record. Then we go down the street to where the martial law command base was last time. Now they have the National Guard posted up there as well as the media area. A lot of your satellite trucks are up the street. And we get in there and we see the Humvees driving around in the circle. And we see that shot where I'm shooting over Joe's shoulder and you can see the city burning in front of him. You know, it was so wild, so bizarre. I mean, it was really, you know, we experienced an action movie last night. And I don't mean that in a good sense.
Wow, Jakari.
Completely wild.
What else do you expect to see happen tonight? Joe thinks it's going to be a lot worse.
Well, if you think about some of the riots previously, you know, the second night is, you know, when really people get really amped up. We've seen the police, you know, they've been kind to media, but they are, you know, pretty much standing back, waiting in the wings, just making sure that they're not attacked. So I'm not sure if they're going to get more proactive as far as stopping the looting, the rioting. There were some stores looted right in front of the police station, the Boost Mobile store I walked into in that footage. That is directly across the street from the police station. So, and you contrast that with what's going on in Clayton, Missouri. We shot those reports this past weekend. everything is blocked off. I mean, the police station has a barricade going all the way around it. The Just Center has a barricade going all the way around it. They locked that area down, but you contrast that with here in Ferguson, and they pretty much protected the police station, the fire station, but that was about it. The rest of the city was open game. We had many of the officers, but they were so tightly compact. You know, you had officers, you had like 3 MRAPs, and then you had all the cop cars behind that and all the officers hiding in between those. And then eventually they made it out here to West Florissant, which is where the McDonald's is and where the Quick Trip is.
And at least 2 police were shot, one in the arm, one in the leg now. I mean, this is not a game. This is a serious, somebody was killed in their car. I think you're right. I mean, I think tomorrow is going to be, or tonight. But going into tomorrow at midnight is probably going to be 2 or 3 times worse. Who knows what will happen as soon as the National Guard rolls in that's been standing by the last few days. What do you think, Jakari, about the fact that they made the announcement?
I think it's a horrible decision to make it that late at night, because we first heard about it. I think we were live on the show with David probably about 1 or 2 o'clock when they announced they had come to the decision. We're like, okay, well, we'll hear the decision pretty soon. We're like, we're going to wait till 8 o'clock. You know, they made it like some primetime TV event, you know, some made-for-TV movie, made-for-TV reality show.
They kept building it up, kept coming out. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then they just waited till it got dark. Everybody's out there in front of the police station. The beginning of that video you've been showing, that's immediately after the verdict is announced. And, you know, people are mad and they're, you know, voicing their opinions. And then it all went downhill from there. You know, they could have announced it earlier in the day. You know, people were at work, at school, or wherever they are. But they wait till everybody comes out. Everybody's out in front of the police station, ready to do whatever they're going to do. And, you know, by and large, let's not stop and forget about the peaceful demonstrators. There are plenty of peaceful people. You know, they were upset with the verdict, but they went home and they went about their normal business. You know, the people who came out here, a lot of people are calling them outside agitators, provocateurs, people who don't live in this community who were out here burning down the buildings last night.
That's right. There are criminals that use the protests and the police behavior as a cover. And if the police wouldn't have attacked folks early on, then it wouldn't have turned the tide politically against them for a while to then allow criminals to take advantage of it. And look, they way overuse the terrorist label when they, you know, say that gun owners and veterans are terrorists, or if you're in the Tea Party, you might be a terrorist, or your speech is terrorism. But when you've got people coming to shoot firefighters and to shoot police because you don't like a grand jury verdict and you're trying to kill them to send a political message, that is the definition. Violence or the threat of violence to achieve a political or economic aim is the definition of terrorism. And I got to say it, you know, notice the media aren't calling these people terrorists now. But with the Tea Party, if somebody sends a threatening letter to an abortuary, they call it paper terrorism. So I just want to illustrate here that I think the organized getting together and shooting 1,000 rounds at police and firefighters is terrorism. And I think it's terrorizing the First Amendment and is a terroristic threat against the media to have the police brutalizing and shooting reporters like you and Jakari with rubber bullets. See, I'm mad at that. And I'm really mad at people shooting at the cops and firefighters with lead bullets, because that makes the Second Amendment look bad. What's your take on that, Jakari?
Oh, that's exactly right. That's what all the anti-gun people say. Well, look, you see all these people, they're going to talk about those record gun sales, and they're going to say all the guns went to the criminals. You know, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people who just went out and bought a shotgun and stayed, you know, hoping nobody came in to kick in their front door. So, you know, I'm sure it will be used to demonize the Second Amendment. I'm sure it will be used to push forward the police state. We need all these MRAPs and this heavy armor and all these other tactics because of situations like this. You know, if they would have did what they did in Clayton and had a more secure environment, it would have been less damage out here.
I guarantee you the police, they were broken up in real teams. See somebody shooting a gun, boom, take them down. If a few of those criminals had got shot early on, all the criminals would have dispersed immediately. They know they've got the green light, Jakari. Since you mentioned it, I want to play this clip from the incredible footage you and Joe shot. The video's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. If you're a radio listener, you got to see this, where they order the firefighters to pull out as you are being shot at. There are bullets bouncing around as this happens, and we've got all the footage of the boom, 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 where criminal terrorists, that's what they are out there shooting at the firefighters. Here it is.
It is wild. buildings have been looted. I personally have witnessed a McDonald's or seen the aftermath of McDonald's and also a Boost Mobile.
All right, there's more of it on Infowars.com. Some of that may not come through AM radio well, but I can hear it clearly. Jakari, stay there. I want to get final comments from you and Joe Biggs. I want to talk to Joe about Delta Force being there. And we have got photos and videos of that up on Infowars.com, but the exclusive footage that people need to see, where we show all sides of it, is on Infowars.com. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we're here live. This broadcast is not about dumbing down the information. It's about seeing all sides of it, studying it through the lens of history, and trying to really understand where it's all going and how the unseen hand of the globalist is trying to manipulate things. Doesn't mean the New World Order is in total control. They're trying to build a panopticonic, omnipresent grid that is anti-human. And at the end of the day, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter, in Ferguson or anywhere else, the globalists want to create racial division. They want to create fear. They have militarized rap music and hip-hop, declassified, to create a thug culture, to prepare black men, especially for prison. We've got a Rick Ross interview that he did in studio with me when he was here a few weeks ago that's condensed. It's a powerful calling out of the fake Rick Ross. We're going to air that at the bottom of the third hour today. In the second and third hour, though, we're going to cover other world news, get into Ferguson, and take your phone calls. In fact, the whole next hour, because this is bigger than Ferguson. It's about understanding the PSYOP. It's all coming up. Now, I told everybody that Secret 12, proprietary B12, super organic, the type that people inject. This is, nutraceutical, pharmaceutical grade. Nobody's ever put something out like this on the open market. It's legal and lawful. Just nobody would dare put something this expensive out at a low price. They'd rather put synthetic, cheap vitamin B12 that you can get for $2 a bottle and sell it for $30. Well, no, we get medical grade. So, we get something that costs us $10, $12 a bottle and sell it for 20-something. We still have a markup. We still fund our operation. We just want to give you the very best. You get maximum absorption. The only way you get better absorption is getting a prescription and getting the injectable. This is the same as the injectable, but this is not for injection, because that has a bunch of preservatives and stuff in it. This has nothing in it but real vitamin B12, 2 different types of organic, 80% the injectable type. There's about 100 bottles left. I just asked Buckley, I said, how much is left? He said, yeah, we're about to pull it. We almost sold out of it in 2 days, then it tailed off. Well, if you want it, we won't have it for weeks, if not months. If you want Secret 12, InfoWarsLife.com right now, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. Also, it took us 2.5 months to get more silver bullet, super high quality, colloidal silver from the biggest and best lab in the country. They supply the largest, organic shopping market out there in the country. This is the same stuff as you find there, just with our label for $5 to $10 cheaper, depending on what they're selling it for at the time. So it's the best known colloidal silver from our research out there, from the best lab, 30 parts per million at the lowest price. Silver bullet, colloidal silver. Again, we just did our biggest run ever, predicting people wanted this during this critical time of the year with all the different illnesses and things that are going on, and viruses move better in the cold and immune systems are down. Silver bullet, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm doing to bolster my body's natural defenses. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. This will be sold out in about a week at current sales. So I would stock up your cupboard. It's a great gift to give friends and family. It's great topical when I get cut or have a rash or a bacterial infection. Boom. Silver bullet's what I personally use. InfoWarsLife.com, our private label of the best colloidal silver out there on the market, and the price is incredibly affordable as well. And all the other high-quality products at InfoWarsLife.com. This is the perfect Christmas gift. You can shop early, but it may not be available in a week or so, so I would order now. More with Jakari Jackson, Joe Biggs, your phone calls coming up, second hour.
Thank you for listening.
Inside the Battle of Ferguson. It's going to get bigger tonight, unfortunately. This could spread
today.
to other cities. Stay with us. Well, eyewitnesses told the grand jury, black eyewitnesses, that Brown charged the police officer and had been attacking him, basically. I'm not endorsing the police state or how our country's degenerated. But the globalists want to produce a thug culture. And we have the special report with Rick Ross coming up where he breaks that down. The hip-hop to prison pipeline. I'm going to give the number out at the start of the next segment. Start going to your phone calls. Joe Biggs, we were going to go back to him and talk